it's safe to say 2025 has certainly seen a lot of curses exercise come to an end. We've seen the likes of, Crystal Palace, Tottenham Hotspur, Newcastle United ending their trophy droughts. We've seen Harry Kane end finally break his trophy duck with Bayern Munich. We've seen, Liverpool finally winning its first trophy in front of paying spectators. And yes, in many ways, Paris Saint-Germain winning the Champions League. But there is one particular sports team that for 2025 certainly will be remembered fondly as the year the curse finally ended.
Got to get to this, surely. Someone's got to get to it.
For so long, ever since they returned from their enforced international ban, South Africa have been considered the eternal bridesmaids. That's the South African cricket team I'm referring to. The Proteas, they've been considered cursed in every single World Cup final. Stacked full of some of the greatest cricketers in the world. Your likes of Sean Pollock, Lance Klusener, Graham Smith, Mark Boucher, etc. They've just never been able to do it until 2025, when on a sunny London day, they finally won, a world title. It's not the World Cup, but we're going to give them that. The curse is settled, let's go. But yes, certainly since their return to international cricket in 1992, it has been a long time coming. I think the only thing longer than this, that will be longer than this drought, is a Canadian NHL team winning the Stanley Cup. Because I'm just recording this as the Florida Panthers just beat the Edmonton Oilers to win the Stanley Cup back-to-back. But yes, certainly it's been a long time coming. And look, here's a look back, and I guess appreciate's not the right word. Kind of a look back at why the Proteas have often been considered the most cursed team in world sport. It's the 22nd of March 1992. We're coming towards the close of the 1992 Cricket World Cup. And it's England versus South Africa at the Sydney Cricket Ground. Of course, this is years before the Sydney Cricket Ground would become this giant concrete ball that it is today. England batted first. They got 252 they scored 252 for a loss of 6 wickets in their 45 overs. Of course, the rain did affect the game. And so South Africa needed 253 to make their first ever World Cup final. Now, of course, it was sort of, I recall watching the early part of the game. Of course, South Africa was sort of struggling to get there, but they did sort of have that when rain interrupted the semi-final. Towards the end, South Africa needed 22 runs from 13 balls. Look, that nowadays 50 over cricket, that's in the post T20 era, that seems like nothing. But of course, in 1992, that was still considered very challenging. Challenging total to get 22 from 13 balls, but still doable. And of course, you think of whoever South Africa had. They had certainly down the order. They had players who were, able to achieve this tricky target. So one thing we should remember, of course, there was no Duckworth Lewis at the time. And of course, so the rain rule at the time, that was quite convoluted. So when rain interrupted play, South Africa needed, the remaining balls target was revised from 13 to 1 ball. So South Africa needed 22 runs from 1 ball. So Yeah, so certainly, look, English fans were celebrating, but it kind of felt a bit controversial, anticlimactic. Ultimately, of course, yeah. Well, I mean, even today, you couldn't get 22 runs from one ball, even if no matter unless you purposely fix the match. So England won by 19 runs, and yeah, I guess the good thing to come out of it was that the Duckworth-Lewis method was introduced.
Be true for some time now. South Africa need 22 runs off this one ball.
Well, South Africa would need to wait 7 years before they get another shot at the final. This time, of course, that the World Cup was played in England, and South Africa would be playing Australia at Edgbaston in Birmingham. So, of course, these two had played in the group games, and Australia had won that game by 5 wickets at Leeds, and there was a key moment when Captain Steve Waugh was dropped by Herschel Gibbs, who actually scored 101 in that game, and Herschel Gibbs had he caught Steve Waugh, but he threw the ball up. He celebrated before confirming the catch, so that ultimately Steve Waugh went on to get 120 and Australia won. So these two would play again. Look, if that was a key moment, of course. If the game was tied, they didn't have super overs back in 1999. Australia would go through because they had beaten South Africa in the group stages, the Super Six. A low-scoring affair, which Australia got 213 on the back of Michael Bevan's 65. But this is after South Africa won the toss, elected the field. Sean Pollock took 5 wickets for 36 from 9.2 overs. And look, I guess 99, 213. It was in the group stage in the Super 6 game. South Africa got 271, Australia 272. 213 was, maybe perhaps a little bit less than what they thought, but it is a World Cup semi-final, and of course, South Africa. I guess both sides had really good pace attacks. It is June, and of course, that '99 World Cup that was noted for it being the weather being being a typical English summer with a lot of rain. South Africa, as they did in 1992, the chase the chase was. The chase was nervous. They lost a couple of wickets, and there was a bit of a collapse, but there was a recovery. John T. Rhodes and Jacques Kallis really needed to really revive the South Africa innings, and they got them within 69 runs. And then, of course, Australia had the late strike. And then, we get to the final over. South Africa 205 for 9. It was Lance Klusener who had. After another late South African collapse, had through some big hitting, classic Lance Klusener hitting. He had put South Africa 9 runs to a first ever World Cup final. Fortunately, he had Alan Donald at the other end. Damien Fleming was the bowler, and the final we've seen this many times. There was Klusener hits a couple of boundaries, and Alan Donald, there is a near miss with Alan Donald, which turned out to be a precursor of things to come. And fourth ball, Alan Donald, Klusener hits it. Alan Donald's well down his crease, and it's the simplest run out you could ever imagine. Australia tied the game, 230. Both Australia, South Africa bowled out. Both sides scored 213, and Australia go through to another World Cup final, which they go on to win. This probably kind of felt like in a way, this kind of felt like the true final, because Australia went on to absolutely demolish Pakistan, probably the worst World Cup final in history. But look, South Africa was just another case of what might have been.
They go for it, and Donald's run out. And Australia are in the final. The match has been...
Now remember what I said about Duckworth Lewis being one of the positive things to be introduced in the wake of that rather scandalous finish to the 1992 World Cup semi-final. Well, I mean it's good for everyone else, but not so much to South Africa. 2003, well, it is South Africa hosting along with Zimbabwe, Kenya. Well, which by the way is it's a worth another story. They had a rather hard time of it as hosts. They lost to New Zealand, and now they were in their final first round group game against Sri Lanka, needing to win to get into the Super Six, the second round. So yeah, they played their game at Kingsmead in Durban. This game, so Sri Lanka batted first. South Africa needed a chase. And yeah, it's February in classic. Of course, Durban is quite tropical. There's always a chance of rain. And yeah, it looks up. Captain Sean Pollard absolutely made a mare of the calculation. Sent the wrong figure was sent to Mark Boucher, the batsman, who, rather than go for a boundary, tapped the ball for a single. And of course, they thought they'd gone through when at the last rain delay. That wasn't the case. And yeah, it is a rather sad way for a great player like Sean Pollard to end his career. And South Africa were eliminated as hosts. And Sri Lanka would go on to make the World Cup final in 2000 and the semi-final in 2000.
Oh, he's hit it! He's hit it! Oh, he's hit it! It's gone all the way! What a shot! Rain or no rain, then they can come off the ground if they do, and they get through. No run, but 229's enough, is it? That'll end up being a tie. That's not good enough to either of them. It's the end of the over. 229 for 6.
Is it were the key two words. The confusion in the commentary box was mirrored out in the middle. Boucher too thought 229 was enough. He walked from the field.
In 2007, South Africa would make the semis, but well, I guess I don't think you'd call that a choke, Digit. But it would be 2015 before South Africa would, I guess, get another close, realistic chance to make the final. Of course, they were playing the host New Zealand at Eden Park in 2015. And look, I guess this is a match that New Zealanders will fondly remember for pretty much, for the rest of their lives. But yeah, look, it was another rain-affected match. And South Africa seemed to have this under control in this semi-final that just, seemed to go into extra innings, literally. But yeah, it was South African-born Grant Elliott, who, with Daniel Vettori, they sort of helped to revive what had been a stuttering New Zealand chase that lost after Kane Williamson had sort of had put him, and Ross Taylor had put him in a really, really good position. They dropped. There was a late drop, and Grant Elliott would ultimately put the final nail in the coffin with a huge six to send New Zealand into their first ever Cricket World Cup final and condemn South Africa to yet another heartbreaking loss. I guess this game is, credit to Elliott, though. He didn't, he picked up his fallen compatriots and, just consoled them after another devastating loss. New Zealand would ultimately go on to lose the Cricket World Cup final. The first, we had 2 consecutive Cricket World Cup finals in Melbourne, which I much rather not talk about.
On strike. Elliott hits it up into the grandstand, and New Zealand are in the World Cup final. Grant Elliott
and ended up victorious. They've stood tall, and they are the ICC Test champions.
So what now for the Proteas? They've finally broken the duck and won, a world title. Look, it's not the World Cup, but this will surely give them some confidence. Just as New Zealand winning the Test Championship hopefully might be a good omen for them. The thing is, of course, South Africa is hosting the next Cricket World Cup in 2027 alongside Zimbabwe and Namibia. And, I guess they'll be hoping that they can provide a better effort than they did, nearly 24, it will be over 24 years ago when they last hosted the World Cup. Look, it's a side that is still a young side. You've got your likes of Markram, Rabada, Bavuma, they're still really young. Can they, is this, could they go, are we witnessing the start of a terrifying new era of South African dominance in cricket? Well, only time will tell. But look, if you like this video, feel free to like, and don't forget to subscribe.
One would hope, I hope, and they just take it on a little tour of their new home.
Yeah, it would be nice. There's been a really good South African support throughout this test match.